Hi y'all, it's Andrea here at the Element 3 Health Sewing Club, and today we are beginning our bag makers skill sharing series. Bag making happens to be my field of expertise, and so today I want to demonstrate for you how to two kinds of straps. The first strap is an adjustable, removable messenger strap that you can attach to your bag. And then the second strap is going to be a removable wristlet strap, which you can also attach to a smaller bag, such as a clutch. The messenger strap is crafted using a piece of fabric that is 6 inches wide. And then what I like to do to maximize the fabric is cut that in a full cut. So most quilt weight cotton is 44 inches in length. And that works out for me to be the perfect average messenger strap. Now, if you had a long torso, I suggest you add approximately 10 inches to that. And that's easy to do by just piecing the fabric, cutting another piece that's 6 by 10, and then joining it, and then proceeding with the strap as I'm going to demonstrate for you. So my standard strap making method for fabric straps is to take that fabric, press it in half long ways, then open that up and bring those outer edges inward to meet on that center press line. And then at that point, what I like to do for my bags is insert a strip of cotton quilt batting, and that measures 3 inches wide by the length of the strap. And I like the quilt batting because it allows me to wash the strap if I need to. Plus, it gives you some padding, so it's much more comfortable to wear, I think, than just say a unlined cotton strap. The other thing that the batting does is it keeps your strap from wrinkling up with wear in the middle, which will happen if you just create this 4-ply cotton strap. And so to me, that's kind of frustrating, and it's obviously not comfortable either. I also suspect that the cotton batting is going to add longevity to the strap because it's additional material. So after I get this cotton strap pressed and I have cut out my batting, then I lay that batting right inside that channel there. And then I close up those outer edges again and press really well one more time. And then I fold that over. And most of the time that strap aligns really nice and neat. If yours is not, go ahead and continue to press until it does, because you don't want that fabric to shift at all. Now, one of my favorite tricks with bag making and adding detail is to find an awesome stripe like this. And good stripes are kind of hard to come by. And then cut it so that that stripe runs, I believe it would be vertical, across the strap there, and you can see all of those colors. You can also use that technique with your pockets and get all of those colors to show up, because if I cut this long ways, then what would happen is those stripes would undoubtedly run crooked down the fabric, and that's going to look kind of wonky. But this way, it creates a really fun strap. So whenever you're working with prints, if you can seek out an awesome stripe and use that for your strap and your accents, I think that's a fun way to add a lot of detail to your bags. So for this strap here, now I'm just going to stitch down this open edge and go all the way down that edge. Then I like to come back in and add another row of stitching on that left hand side, And then I will either come back and add a center row of stitching, so they have 3 rows of stitching, which I think offers a really professional finished look, or I will add a second row of stitching to both sides, and there'll be 4 rows of stitching. I liken that to like denim, how denim is finished, and both look very nice. It's just going to be a matter of preference. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch up the strap fast so I can show you how to attach the hardware. And I want to mention too, I know a lot of you worry about seam allowance. What I do when sewing straps is I align, and I'm going to move this a little closer so maybe you can see better. I align that right hand edge of the strap exactly with the edge of the machine foot here, and that's where I place my eye. I know when I'm teaching people in person, they will get frustrated if the strap stitching is crooked, and so I have a little cheat method that you can use if your straps do turn out like that. But what I find is what's happening where they're going wrong is they're moving the fabric, and that's why it's going crooked. So I create a little channel with my hands, and I do not over control the fabric, and then I keep my eye right on that right hand side of the foot. The other day somebody said you should not look at the needle, so that may be where they're going wrong as well. But don't worry about moving the fabric much, and then just keep your eye right on the edge of the foot. And then at any point you feel like your strap is getting twisted, stop and straighten out that fabric, because if you stitch it twisted, it's not going to sit nice on the body. So periodically I will stop with these long straps and just kind of pull them long ways there and make sure everything's nice and straight. And then I just continue right along that short edge, because we're going to hide all of the ends anyways, and then continue right up that opposite side so that that strap is balanced. Okay, and I promise that's the most sewing you're going to have to listen to. The other one I prepped, but I wanted to sew this live so that you can see, one, how that technique of watching that edge of the foot keeps that top stitching perfect, and it is not crooked. But let's say that you don't yet have a good method and you're not satisfied when you look at the strap. It is crooked and you feel it's sloppy. A really fun thing to do is to come back and put the strap up on the machine deck there and then over control that fabric and just kind of free motion stitch all the way down that strap. And you can add an additional 2 rows of stitching like that with just that fun artistic flair, and the strap looks great. And I have tried that with dozens of people in person sewing that were mortified with their crooked straps. And then after they did that, they were like, oh, I actually really like that. So I find you can turn perceived mistakes into design elements. So rather than rip all the stitching out, which would be really time consuming and frustrating, just come in and turn it into a piece of art. So now that you have your 2 rows of stitching in place, again, you have the option of adding a 3rd row or 2 rows. For your sake, I am not going to add the additional stitching now. It still looks really nice. It just would look more professional with the additional stitching. But I want to go ahead and show you how to add the hardware to the strap so that you can create an adjustable, removable messenger strap. So in order to do that, there are a couple pieces of hardware that you're going to need. The first is 2 swivel, they call them swivel snap hooks. And those attach to the ends. I have 2 different kinds here. These ones here that work best with the 6-inch wide fabric straps are 1.5 inches across the top, and that's the actual width of this strap when you fold it 4 times. And there's plenty of distance here at the top of that hardware to fold this strap around the hardware and stitch it into place. So this would be my first pick. If you have trouble finding this kind, you see the fabric straps will play there a little and can be inserted into smaller swivel fobs, and this functions perfectly fine. The fabric does kind of create its own little channel and rest wherever you use the strap most, and that's what's happened here. This hardware, I think, is for dog leashes, to be honest with you, but is really good quality, and I like to use that on heavy bags or bags that I'm going to be keeping, like, say, my laptop in and things, or travel bags. The heavy duty hardware like that is better because I'm sure if it's used for dog leashes, it's weight tested at some point. Whereas I do not know how, I've never broken one of these, let's say that, but I don't know that they weight test them. I think they just intend them to be used on bags. And then you're going to need 2 rings. You can also use D-rings if you like. But the thing about D-rings is they have the tendency to twist on the bag, and then you're going to have your D-rings sideways, and that doesn't look very nice. So if you go with O-rings, your bag will never, or your bag hardware will never look like it's twisted. The one exception to that is a D-ring that has a channel cut out there, and hopefully you can see that. I don't have any new in the package, but this D part of it is thicker, and then the bar there is a little more shallow. So what that does is hold that fabric in place, and then my D-ring doesn't twist and look all wonky. And I don't know exactly why that is, but it does work. So if you like the look of D-rings, just seek out that hardware that has a little skinnier buckle area there, and then go with the thicker rounded portion of that. And then the most important thing to make an adjustable strap is what they call a slide adjuster. I've also found these searching online under the term Tri-Glide, and they come in all different widths and finishes. The most common kind are the black plastic ones that they use on, say, backpack straps. So for each strap, you're going to need one Tri-Glide, two of the rings, or two of the swivel fobs, and then two of the rings. And so we're going to begin with the Tri-Glide. And you just need one of those. And so along one of the short edges of the strap, just trim that up and get rid of any excess batting or raw edges there. And then you're going to feed that end of the fabric into the bottom of that Tri-Glide, and then come up and around the center part of that. So it looks like that on the front and that on the back. And then just pull that through a few inches and go ahead and fold over that raw edge, and then push the buckle up closer to that end and fold that over so that that raw edge is tucked in there nice and neat. So here, this is 8 layers of fabric and 2 layers of batting. If you don't think that your machine can handle that much fabric, what you would want to do when you're making your strap is omit the batting from, say, 4 inches on either end of that strap. And then you'll just be sewing through 8 layers of fabric, which should be fine. The exception to that would be if you are working with home decor fabric, half the amount of batting that you have in there. Instead of a 3-inch strip of batting, you use 1.5 inches. You also have the option of trimming away at an angle on the inside of your strap. If you open that up, let's say you're still prepping, you can trim at an angle that fabric and that batting, so at the ends you only have that fabric on the exterior. That takes a little bit of practice, but those are just options if you don't have a machine that can sew through this. Most of the time my machines can handle the cotton and the batting. When I do run into problems with it, I find it's because I need to change the needle. So that's a good idea. So after you get the Tri-Glide on there, then put that up on the machine deck there. Keep everything nice and balanced. I give it a little push, and then I want to lift that foot up on there, and I start in the middle because I find if I start on the outer edge, it's more likely to twist or cause a problem with the thread as it's initially starting out. So I start in the middle, I put the needle in the down position, and that's going to give you a really good idea if this is too much for your machine, because if that needle doesn't go down nicely, then consider changing the needle or trimming away some of that excess. And then I do go slow, so if you have a speed adjustment on your machine, go ahead and adjust that. And then I start out and I come almost all the way to the edge, a little past that first stitch line. And then I go immediately backwards to the edge and then forwards, and oftentimes backwards to the middle again, because we don't want our strap to break. So that's probably like 3 rows of stitching on that one straight line there. And by going backwards, instead of trying to turn that whole strap around, you can keep that stitching pretty nice and straight. Then I do come in and add one more row of stitching there using the exact same technique, just to hold this lip down and make extra sure that this strap is never going to give out on me. Again, just starting right in the middle with the needle in the down position. And so now you would just trim up all of your threads, and that should be on there for life. You shouldn't have any problems with that. So assume I cleaned up those straight threads. Then the next step is to come to your remaining raw edge and go ahead and trim away anything you have there so you have a nice clean surface to work with. If you want to make sure that you're not getting your strap twisted there, so it should be laying nice and flat. You just have the one loop there, and then your raw edge is coming back up here. Before you feed that through the tri-glide, you're going to need to put on one of these swivel cloths. And I've learned the hard way, test these before you sew them on a strap. Make sure that the clasp actually opens. Sometimes it's kind of rare, but sometimes I found that they're like welded shut, or they were dipped and it closed that. Or on occasion, even more rare, it just doesn't function and it's defective. So before you get it all super stitched in place, just make sure your tri-glide actually functions, and this one seems to work good. And you can give it a little spin and pull on it, because that is the weakest spot on these, would be if something were wrong and that hardware were going to separate there. So if you're satisfied with the quality of that, feed it right on your strap, and you can see it fits perfect on there and moves freely. And that's going to go to about center, and the strap is folded nice and neat, and then that remaining edge comes in through the top of that tri-glide over that little hump which you just attached to the tri-glide, and back in the bottom buckle of that. And so now you just have your raw edge at this end, and your hook is sitting nice there, and make sure nothing is twisted, and then double check that the slide actually functions, and it does perfectly. And then you take your remaining hook, you do your little quality assurance checks, and if that's good, you slide that through that buckle, and same thing, fold over that fabric just about a ½ inch, and then fold that over one more time to hide that raw edge, and then go ahead and add your 2 rows of stitching using the same technique with the back stitching to make sure that's super secure. Okay, and then the last step is just to clean up all of those threads, and then you have a really awesome adjustable strap that you could use on a variety of bags if you crafted that from a neutral pattern or fabric. So I just want to check and see if anybody has any questions about this process before I show you quick how to make a removable messenger strap or wristlet strap. So if you do have any questions, just go ahead and unmute and speak freely. I'll give this a few seconds while I trim up these threads and see. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so for the wristlet straps, you're going to need a little different hardware and a little different batting. Actually, it's not batting that I use for those. It's a Pellon product. You can use anything that's comparable to that. And the reason that I switched is because this is a short strap that's designed, you know, just to sit on your wrist. And you don't really need padding of any sort. What you need is durability, because usually wristlet straps are holding wallets or cell phones or something like that, that you would probably be disappointed if you did not have that nice and secure on your wrist. So I like to use like a heavy duty, the thickest kind of Pellon that I can find. And I just cut a very small strip of that, which it should be 3/4 of an inch it is. And that sits in the channel just like the batting did, except it's only consuming just one of the 4 channels on this. So my wristlet straps are cut 3 inches wide. And then you have a lot of freedom to customize those in the length. So cut it as long as you need to wear it comfortably, and then position that Pellon or interfacing right there in the center channel, and you bring in those raw edges just like we did before, and then you fold that over and press nice. With the wristlet straps, because you fold them over multiple times as well, but you're working with a much smaller space, so that means you're going to have a lot fewer stitches going across that. But yet, as mentioned, it's holding probably more valuable contents. What I like to do is minimize that extra bulk, because this is thicker than the quilt batting, and so we still have to fold it over all those times. And I go ahead and cut that at an angle. And I do leave the ends just primarily fabric so that my stitches are locked in place and not separated so far in the distance. So I fold that all over and then stitch in the same fashion. There's usually not enough room to add more than 2 rows of stitching on a wristlet strap. But you can see how that Pellon gives that its body and shape. So then you can just put your hand right in there. It's very comfortable to wear because the fabric itself is soft and it's not so wide that it's going to cut into you. And so same thing, you're going to trim up any little raw threads or excess there on the end. And I'll give you the measurements of this just in case you like that length. It's 20 inches long, and then it was 3 inches wide to start with. And so I'm going to thread a smaller fob on this, and I think, oh good, I still have the packaging. These are 1/2 inch swivel fobs, and they happen to come with the little D-ring that we're going to use. They also sell just the swivel fobs by themselves, and then you can order the little 1/2 inch D-rings. An O-ring works wonderful too. These just happen to come in the set and they match. So the D-rings work for the smaller straps and they don't twist like the 1.5 inch ones will, so that's fine. So same process, just do your little quality check on your swivel, and if it is functioning, you're going to slide that swivel onto your 10-inch strap and then align those raw edges and go ahead and stitch across those raw edges about a 1/4 inch from the actual edge. And you do want to make sure that the fabric's aligned nice and straight for this. And then get rid of the stray threads. And then I come in and trim it even closer so we don't have much excess fabric there at all. So the bob's down here and the raw edge is there. Then I turn that so that that seam is now hidden. And I just go ahead and rotate everything, including that bob. And it should turn pretty nice for you without any problems there. You might have to straighten out the edge, but it does sit really nice after you turn it. And then what you're going to do is encase those raw edges with another very narrow row of stitching right up against that seam if you can, and you can feel that. And then you can go ahead and use it like this if you like, or what I like to do is bring that D-ring down into that and then add another row of stitching across there. And I if I can find my seam ripper, which I should have handy, I can show you an alternate way there. I'm just going to rip out that stitching that I put in there real fast. And you can see how easy that comes out, which is why I leave most of that interfacing out of that end, because there just aren't a lot of stitches going across there. But let's say you didn't finish the strap like that to wear the fob at the rounded end. Pull that fob in and let it rest right on that seam. So the seam is not quite centered in the middle of that ring, but it is very close to it. And then come in as close as you can safely to that and add 2 rows of stitching. And that's what will produce your most comfortable, strongest wristlet, because then the seam is not resting on your wrist, but it is hidden down inside of the near the fob there. And then from a security standpoint, if the strap were going to break, it would be down here versus up there on your wrist. And if you're able, adjust your needle position to the right so that you can get in even closer to that. But then that'll also keep that hardware from moving around on you. And you have a nicely finished strap. Now the last step for both of the straps is to create a way to attach them then to your actual project. So for the wristlet strap, I just use a piece of cotton fabric that's 3 inches wide, and then however long you need it to be for your project. You could go very short, like 3 inches, or if you need more room and you want to create additional length, you can make that longer. This piece here happens to be 6 inches by 3 inches. Press that exactly like we did the strap. I don't put any interfacing in these because we have to fold it over, and then you're actually going to sew it in the seam of your project, which has its own fabric, its own batting. So I think that's asking a lot of most machines. So I'm just going to run a row of stitching down this real quick to secure that edge. And you could definitely add 2 inches to this, if, or not 2 inches, but 2 rows of stitching if you like. And then you're just going to slide that on your matching 1/2 inch D-ring for the wristlet strap. And I just loop that around. I find it's convenient to have a little bit of playroom with this. So to me, the 6 inches works well. If I had added, this is worth noting, if I had added that 2nd row of stitching, that fabric would not fold in like that on the D-ring. It would sit nice. So there is a benefit to having that additional stitching. But anyway, so this loop here is what you would then sew into your project seam or wherever you wanted that little attachment to be so that you could hook on your wristlet strap. Now it's the same process for the messenger strap, except you're going to use this 6 inch piece, and 6 inch by 6 inches is actually ideal for that. And then you'll take your bigger rings, which these are 1.5 inch rings. You'll thread those on your 6 inch tabs, and then that will go usually on the sides of your bag. But if you just wanted to create a universal messenger strap, your bags may already have these rings or a way to attach this on there. So that gives you a lot of options when it comes to that removable messenger strap. And I just want to show you a couple other strap options that I already have on bags to give you a few ideas, and then we can answer any questions you might have and just say hi to everybody. Okay, so on this first bag, which I showed you earlier, the hardware is already in place and I use the D-ring. So that's where that messenger strap attaches to. I use the matching one. And there are D-rings on each side, or if you use the O-rings, that works as well. And then that's how the strap is attached to the bag. Then for this bag, which I use to hold my computer, I just bought the matching webbing, and this is 1.5 inch webbing. And then at this end, I use that 2nd tri-glide, and I just folded the fabric around the top and bottom buckle on the tri-glide and left that center one open and then stitched that into the bag. Now this type of strap is not removable, but I didn't need it to be. And then the opposite end of that webbing is just stitched right into the bag. So this is a great option for making a fast strap. And you can just as easily attach the fobs to the end of the webbing as your cotton fabric. The cotton fabric I think is a little more comfortable to wear because you have the padding, but the webbing stays on the shoulder nicer. So it's a trade-off, and there's a solution if you don't want to compromise, and that is taking the webbing and using it on the bottom of the strap and then putting your pretty cotton fabric on the top. And this is also a fixed strap using, I think it's just 1 inch across, and I used a little tri-glide and little tiny 1 inch O-rings, and that creates a nice thick strap that is really comfortable to wear, and it stays nice on the shoulder there. And then the last strap inspiration I have for you is you could do patchwork straps. So if you just want to piece together a whole bunch of different fabrics, then you could create a fun strap that might match a lot of your projects. So if you save up little bits of fabric from each project, then you can make that universal messenger strap and not have to remake a new messenger strap for each bag. Okay, so I'm gonna put on my gallery view so I can say hi and see if anybody has any questions. Was that clear, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Any questions, Usha?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, and I
Yeah.
see Gay. Hello, Gay, can you hear us? You're muted. You would have to unmute to say hello.
I'm here and I'm listening.
Oh, good. Have you made bag straps before, Gay?
I have made bags, but I've just not that with all the hardware, basically just attached them to the bags that I've made,
So fixed straps.
fixed straps.
And
But
do
tote-
you go ahead.
For tote bags,
Oh, yes, okay. Do you make them from cotton fabric or do you prefer to use the webbing?
cotton with stabilizer in between.
Okay, what kind of stabilizer do you prefer?
I don't remember what my last, I don't remember which one it was that I used the last time. I had made, I'm not sure. I don't remember. If it was a Pellon, I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. Is it similar to, you don't use a batting then? You always use some type of actual interfacing stabilizer?
I have used batting. I'm a quilter, so I have used batting in between before, which makes it a little bulkier.
Yes, yes, it does. What kind of machine do you have?
I have a Bernina and I have a Husqvarna.
Do they both do really well with multiple layers?
Both do. They're both workhorses. Both of them are embroidery machines also. So
Oh, interesting. Now, instead of, I don't know if you were on the line when I talked about how to remedy the crooked stitches, but you could definitely use a decorative stitch as well down these straps, and that would be really pretty too. So I get my hardware, Gay, at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if you have a hardware or a Hobby Lobby in your area.
not close by. No, we don't have. I'm in Massachusetts, and there are Hobby Lobbies, but nothing is close to me right now.
Okay, I have seen hardware at Joann's as well. It's a little bit more expensive there, though, I think, than a Hobby Lobby. Do you, Usha, have a good source for bag hardware?
I always go to Amazon.
Oh, you do? Yeah, and
Yeah.
you just type in exactly what you're looking for then, and it pops
Yeah,
up.
because whenever I go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's or Joann's, along with whatever is in my list, I'm getting other additional stuff, whatever my eye catches it. It's
Oh,
more
that's true.
expensive than what I think. So that's where I ended up with Amazon. But when you said Pellon, is there a specific number?
So I have never made a note of what the thick Pellon is. So the thinner one I know is 808 or 809, but I have no idea what the number of this thick one is.
I used to have a Pellon thicker one, which is iron-on, and I think I ran out of it and I don't know what number that was. So now I have to order again.
Either. And I don't know if it's just they don't put the number on that. That wouldn't make good sense though.
Yeah.
But it's
I'll check it out.
never stuck in my mind. So there has to be a reason for that because I know the other numbers. So next time, I usually buy mine at Walmart, but with COVID, I haven't been in a Walmart.
Yep.
So
even when you go there, they don't have that much of a stock anyway.
they're sold out now. That's what I've been hearing. Yeah, it's very difficult to get it. So this one is not iron-on, but I have worked with the iron-on before, and I think it's a little thicker, and it makes a nice wristlet strap as well. And
it's more stable for the bottoms, bottom of the bag. Initially, when I was starting making the bags, I didn't know and then I used it for the entire bag. And
How did you ever get that to finish?
and they were like sticking and standing up like you know, like a soldier.
It would be very durable bag. And I have done that before too and somehow did work it out, but it is a super sturdy bag.
Yeah,
If
but you
do
don't
that.
like that touch, like, you know, when it is so stubborn and standing out, you don't feel like touching it. So then I came to know, like, you know, the one which I used is better for the bottom of the bag, but not for the entire bag.
Yes,
So
it is
that's
very
why I'm
nice with
asking.
the bottoms.
Yeah.
And if you want to put on bag feet, that's definitely the way to go, is get in that. What kind of sewing machine do you sew your straps on, Usha?
I have one Singer and a couple of Brother sewing machines.
Do they
Um,
ever struggle with the multiple layers?
Not the Singer one, but the Brother machines, so those are both like embroidery machines. So I don't stress them that much for my regular sewing and all. So mostly on the embroidery machines, I do the patching and the light work. But whenever I have some thicker work, I put my walking foot on the Singer Quantum, the one which I have it. It's really takes a good bite on it. So I didn't have any problem to sew the thick layers on that. No problem. At the
Yeah.
most, maybe I'll break a needle.
Oh, I hate when that happens. And then have you ever used, I think there's something called a hump jumper. Doesn't that help when you have the straps?
Oh yeah, the additional one, you put it at the back of the sewing machine foot.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. But I forget, you know, whenever I just try to, you know, handle it with hand and rotate the wheel and get away from the hard spot.
That's
And
a good
I
idea.
mostly do this all this sewing in a moderate or the less speed one, so I have more control on that.
Yes, that's a
So no
good
problem.
idea too. And I think I've seen before too, where you could take like multiple pieces of interfacing and make your own hump jumper.
Hmm.
And so it just kind of sits behind the foot to hold it level. Is that how you understand it to work?
Yeah, but I have a bunch of them
Oh,
sitting
you
here.
do? I have none of them. I
Yeah.
guess it's just because I know the limitation of the machine. So like I don't ask the machines that can't do it to do it.
So that was the problem. When you go and then when you see it in Joann's or, you know, this Hobby Lobby, the discounted prices on the shelves, and say anything you pick here, like 50% discount, 60% discounts, that's where what new things are there. That's what I check it and grab all of them.
You do?
So that's why
Good
I
for you.
stopped going to those shops. They're not good for my purse.
Oh, and you know, I noticed right away, like, well, it was about like 4 weeks into our isolation period here. I'm like, wow, I have a lot more money than I've ever had. And I pretty much realized that's because I couldn't go to all my favorite stores.
Yep,
Yep.
we're all saving money.
Yes, and so that is a nice, I guess, a nice lesson for us to learn, a helpful lesson. Yeah. So I
Yep.
imagine that shopping on Amazon does seem like it would be useful if you're looking for specific things, because I totally see how I would buy extras.
Hardware, yeah, I go with it, but not fabric though. So hardware definitely, you know, they ship faster and the quality is good. Price is reasonable. So it works for me.
Well, I'm a quilter, so I'm having to purchase fabric online, and I find it really difficult.
Oh, do you? What's the hard part for you, Gay? What I should say, don't you enjoy about it?
Trying to find backing for a quilt. I mean, I have enough stash that I can make quilts, but then to find a nice wide back, I get flustered trying to find something that goes. The last one I bought, it wasn't a wide back. It was like a Ruby Stark, And I thought, oh, okay, I'll buy this one. But I got it and it was like, oh, do I really want to use this on the back of it? It's a beautiful fabric. And I did put it on and my daughter-in-law said, oh, I like the back. So I guess it was fine, but it has like gold metallic, which I didn't notice when I ordered it. It didn't say that it had metallic in it. So I was a little surprised by it.
Yeah, and it is difficult to tell what's metallic or not online.
Right.
Have you found sources that to be reliable yet that you like for shopping online for fabric? Because I think everybody's kind of in that same.
I do.
boat.
I always buy fabric from fabric.com.
Go ahead.
They have the white backing also, so
Right.
I buy from them the white backing and the fabric panels mostly. My big purchase from online fabric.com is the nice themed fabric panels, which I use them for the baby quilts, you know, that one. And my other source was previously Craftsy and then Blueprint, but now I don't know where to go because they both are closed or closing actually.
This last one I found was on Etsy. And she was very quick in getting it to me, but I used Cottoneer in California and Missouri Star.
Oh yes, that's a great source.
Cottoneer is a small little one, but she has really pretty fabrics. And then I have a shop that's maybe about 45 minutes from me. I can call if I want solids. I have the chart, so I can call and I can order the solids, and I just do curbside. I drive down and she drops it in my car.
How fun. That's good then. So aside from the wide backs then, you're finding what you need.
Well, some of the wide backs I've called my quilt shop and they've taken pictures of what they've got on the shelf, which is that's a little helpful. I did get one wide back that way. So they are trying to be accommodating because I won't go in the shops right now.
Yeah.
I do too.
How many years have you been quilting, Gay?
Almost 20, about 26 years. The first quilt I made, when my daughter got married, where we had her reception, they were going to use cloth, paper napkins. She said, that's tacky. So I made the napkins for the wedding. So now I had this 100 and something napkins. So I made her a quilt using the napkins, which was my first quilt. It was a pinwheel, and I bought it was just 2 fabrics from the napkins and 1 odd fabric that I had to purchase, and I made her a quilt from those 3 fabrics, and it was just a pinwheel. And from there I got hooked, and that was it.
Oh, that is so exciting. And what a thoughtful, complete heirloom gift.
Yes, it's still there 26 years later.
And that was your first quilt ever?
That was my first. Now I don't even know. I mean, probably in a couple of 100 quilts now.
Are you? Do you quilt every day?
Now I do. I retired 5 years ago, so now I have plenty of time to quilt.
Oh, that's so fun. How long does it take you to finish one?
I'm working on one now. This one, just the piecing of the 400 squares. It's a queen size. I'm just making the border strips now. I think it took me 4 days to piece it together. So about 100 pieces a day I could piece. And now I'm on strips for the border, and I have a long arm, so it'll go up there next.
Oh, you're so lucky. I have had it on I do not quilt, and I have had it on my wish list for many years. One day there's just going to be one delivered, and I'm going to learn.
Well, I had a hip replaced, and I couldn't really stay long enough on the floor to pin it together and get everything smooth because it takes forever. Some days I'd be on the floor a couple of hours, and I couldn't do that anymore on my hands and knees. And I found, well, if I get the quilting machine, I get the long arm, you just load everything on, so there's no more down on the floor.
Yeah.
And the hard part was learning to use the machine, because I got the CAD unit, so I can pop in a design and it can do squares or a whole quilt edge to edge, but I'm still learning lots of new things about it.
Oh, I bet. And how long does it take for the machine to do, say, like a full size quilt?
The one I just finished was a twin, and I think it took me about 6.5 hours total.
Okay. And you have to you like to sit there with it when it's running?
I usually do. I never leave the room, because when the buzzer goes off, you've either got a thread break or your bobbins run out. The bobbins are big, but they are not that big. I mean, that quilt there, I could get almost a full row out of a bobbin. Not quite a full row, but almost a full row. So in every row you had a bobbin change. So
And is this bobbin easily accessible then?
yes, you just slide your machine to the left or the right of the quilt, and you just go under the bar, and it's right there in the front. It's very easy to access. It's kind of like my Bernina, which has the bobbin right in the front, and it pops in the same way as the Bernina pops in. It isn't a drop-in, it's a push-in.
Very
From
nice.
the
And then
front.
I would imagine you keep extra bobbins just sitting there.
Well, I usually figure about how many bobbins I'm going to use in a quilt, and I will wind those before I even start. So 7 or 8 bobbins is usually a good number to start with. So.
Right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the strap making demonstration. Here with the Sewing Club is a brand new, or newly established, I should say. And so we want to gear the space for both the new sewers so they're comfortable exploring the possibilities, because, you know, even just on this call, we've heard about so many different types of sewing, right? You don't necessarily have to quilt or be a bag maker to fit into this space. So, so I just want to extend the invitation to all of you. If you do have a skill and you would like to take one of these Tuesday spots, and it doesn't have to be an hour, it could be 15 minutes for that matter, and demo a technique or even give a tour of your creative space, that I think would be really fun for us all. I know we all like to see creative spaces, right? No matter what it looks like, if it has fabric in it, we're happy.
Yeah, it has a lot of fabric.
So, or just even show off your fabric collection. That to me would be like nirvana. So just keep that in the back of your mind as your comfort level increases with Zoom and participation. Of course, participation is going to grow the more they market. This is the beginning of week 3, I think, and they built it from the ground up. And the purpose was to meet the need right now, especially with COVID, that everyone is so isolated. And now, gosh, guys, is it 4 months?
I think I'm 112 days. We have had nobody in our house. Nobody comes in, and we don't really go out. So
that's hard. We're not designed to be so isolated.
Yeah.
So next Tuesday, I am planning to demonstrate a recessed zipper closure on a basic tote bag. So I won't show you how to make the basic tote bag, but I'll show you how to create the casing for the zipper and then install it. Pretty much I feel you could install it in any tote bag, even one you bought at the store that didn't have a zipper. Okay. And then we'll go from there and see if somebody else wants to take a Tuesday spot, or if you all would like to continue with the bag skills and tricks for a little while. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Well, you all let me know if you ever have any questions, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.